I'm able to remember all those little sacrifices and all those little things that I've done well, that I can honestly look in the mirror and say, I've prepared myself to the best of my ability. And there's no what ifs, there's no second guessing, because all the work has been put in and then some. I didn't just work hard when I was in the pool. I took that extra 15 minutes to stretch out after practice before I laid on the couch. So I would imagine that it probably applies to other things as well.
Welcome to Champions Mojo Weekly Podcast, where your hosts Kelly Pallas and Maria Parker share with you what it takes to be a champion. Kelly is a former Division I head swim coach, Olympic trials qualifier, and holds Masters World and National swimming records. And Maria holds world records in endurance cycling and was the overall women's winner of the world's toughest bike race, Race Across America. They'll be sharing their personal stories and wisdom, along with interviewing other champions to give you the tools you need for becoming a true champion in your own life. And now, your host, Kelly Pallas.
Hello, friends. Welcome to the Champions Mojo podcast, where today we'll be talking with an amazing Olympic champion who is pioneering the vocation and business of being a professional swimmer in a most innovative and engaging way. It's none other than Cody Miller, who, besides winning gold and bronze medals at the 2016 Olympics, he has 6 World Championship medals, has set 8 American records, and had a stellar NCAA career at the University of Indiana. Cody is a member of Team Tier, the swimsuit that's always in front. He's also a member of the DC Trident Pro Swim team competing in the International Swimming League. There's more on Cody coming, but before we go there, I want to say hello to my co-host, Maria Parker. Hello, Maria.
Hi, Kelly. As a couple of athletes and businesswomen ourselves, it's very exciting to be talking with Cody about his approach to his cutting-edge career in pro swimming. We've heard all about Cody's accomplishments in the pool, but what he's doing out of the pool is groundbreaking. His YouTube channel, Cody Miller Adventures, is the most prolific of any professional or Olympic swimmer, with over 114,000 subscribers, and it's growing daily. He's got a huge following on social media. He produces a podcast where he talks with fellow elite swimmers, and as a self-proclaimed film fanatic, he's also part of a highly rated podcast where he talks movies. It might sound like there's not enough hours in the day for Cody to do all this stuff, but he does, and with a smile on his face most of the time. I'm really excited about this interview, Kelly.
No doubt. We're going to learn a lot today from this celebrity swimmer, Maria. So without further delay, let's welcome Cody to the show. Cody, great to have you here. Welcome to Champions Mojo.
Yes.
Wow.
Welcome,
Thank you guys so much. You guys are so much more professional than I am. You made me sound so good and accomplished. That was so nice. I'm smiling right now. Thanks for having me. This is awesome. I'm very excited.
We could have gone on.
Yeah. Maybe you don't know how good you are, Cody. Let me just tell you, you're amazing.
Yes. I mean, just besides we love it. We love swimming and we love talking to Olympic gold medalists, but what you are doing outside of the pool is going to be most people who know you already know what you're doing. For those listeners that may not cross over into the swimming pool, we're going to get you another 100,000 here with just talking to kind of our non-swimmers. And of course, our swimmers will be interested as well. So first, your story is truly incredible. And I know people can find that elsewhere because we really want to kind of stick to professional swimming and what you're doing as a businessman. Just a couple of items. If you could say, when we see Cody Miller on the outside, we see this golden child, golden boy, Olympic gold medals, model good looks. You've got this great personality. You got a beautiful, loving wife. People look at this charmed life like Cody Miller, man. He's just got it all going on. It must always have been so easy for that dude because he is like got it. But looking at your background, I literally was moved to chills when I read your story. And I'm a deep swimming fan. And when you won gold in 2016, I did not know your background until I dug in for this interview. And then I literally spent hours studying your background. So what are a couple of those huge challenges for maybe our non-swimming listeners that you've overcome to get to the top of that podium at the Olympic Games?
Yeah, that's interesting that you say. From the outside looking in, it kind of looks like it came easy, or there's a photo, like a really famous photo, where there's like an iceberg sticking out of the water, and you can only see the tip, and then it says what people see, and then what people don't see, and it's this mountain of work underneath it.
That's
And
right.
I always kind of think about that. For me, probably the first biggest struggle I ever really had that people didn't really know about until, quite honestly, until I started talking publicly about it, was I was born with a medical condition called Pectus Excavatum, which essentially is sunken chest syndrome. So I look like I have a big hole in my chest. I had a few struggles with that. Number one, I was extremely self-conscious with the way that I looked growing up. I was very uncomfortable in a bathing suit, on the pool deck from a young age. I mean, I distinctly remember not wanting to take off my t-shirt in gym class because I was afraid of getting made fun of. I was afraid of, just quite honestly, the way that I looked. I didn't like the way that I looked in the mirror. That was like a really big mental toll that eventually I, gained the self-confidence to kind of grow out of. But it took many years to get there. So oftentimes when I talk to young kids, I tell them, I'm like, look, I'm this great accomplished Olympic swimmer now, but there was a point in time in my life where I didn't like the way I looked in the mirror. And I know what it's like to be incredibly insecure and uncomfortable in your own skin. And what I've learned now looking back is that every single person, whether you're, a famous Hollywood actor, an Olympic athlete, professional swimmer, whatever, one thing that I've learned is that everybody has something about themselves that they don't like, and everybody has their own insecurities, and you just don't see those insecurities. And once you recognize that, I think it kind of lets you be a little bit more comfortable in your own skin, understanding that, everybody sees their own flaws, and that's okay. And it was a really long process for me to get over, my own insecurities. And on top of that, I grew up in a fractured household. My dad had drug problems all through high school. Me and my mom divorced him because he had debt collectors coming to the house, trying to track him down. And, essentially, long story short, his drug addiction became so bad that he was living homelessly for a number of years, refusing help or aid from any of our family members. And that was a really big struggle for me, was just dealing with the fact that, my dad was out there struggling and wouldn't accept any help. And I was struggling with not knowing what to do, not knowing how to handle it. And then unfortunately, he passed away about 6 months before Olympic trials. That was kind of something that I just kind of had to compartmentalize and kind of shove down and kind of deal with after the fact. But I think, kind of breezing over all these things, it never came easy for me. There was always something that I was dealing with. Oftentimes you see people on YouTube or on TV and it's like, oh, they have these perfect lives. Oh, they're accomplished. But the reality is everybody has struggles. Everybody has, things that they have to go through. Everybody has hurdles that they have to jump. And one thing that I try to do in my videos and through my social media is show people, hey, you can have fun doing X, Y, and Z, struggling through a swim set. But also, I want people to relate to me, understand that, I'm human. I've been through some stuff, and hopefully hearing that I've come out on the other side okay and successfully, then that might give somebody the inspiration or the motivation to kind of push through whatever they're dealing with as well. But I would definitely say that those are probably the two biggest struggles that I've dealt with are, number one, dealing with my own perception of my deformity. And then there's some medical, there's a little bit of a breathing disability with it. I kind of glossed over that, but, I have anywhere from 10 to 20% diminished lung capacity, just because of the inward, torque of my sternum. And then, dealing with the death of my father and his drug problems. And, so I've been on a bit of a roller coaster, but, honestly, all those things made me better, right? All those things made me stronger. And, yeah, I mean, we're doing okay. Everything's all right.
I hear you doing in that answer what I think you do really well in your public life, which is try to be really positive, but also you're real. You share the challenges. Is that something you've been deliberate about?
Yeah, I mean, I think it just kind of came, organically because as I started making videos and as I started becoming more prevalent on social media, it was like, okay, like what am I trying to display and what do I want my viewers to get out of this? And when I think about it from that perspective, it's like, I want people to have that ability to recognize flaws and recognize struggles, but then also still have a positive mindset when trying to work through those things, even when it's outrageously difficult. So on one hand, I think I kind of do that naturally in my own life, but on the other hand, I do try to make a distinction when, when forming a video, when editing together, say a swimming set where everybody is dying and struggling and it's tough. I want to show the struggle and I want to show how hard it is, but then at the same time, I want to show, hey, like this, you don't have to hate this moment. Like you should relish this moment where you're struggling, because in the water, speaking training in training terms, in the water or on the bike or when you're running, those are the moments when you're going to grow. And that's definitely something that I want people to see.
Cody, you say it's a roller coaster, and it really, life is a roller coaster for all of us. And you seem to have mastered this ability to, obviously you mentioned the two biggest things kind of going into the Olympics. So when you come up against something that's, really kind of stinks, like even in the last year, I'm looking at things that have occurred in your life, or the last couple of years. You had the disappointment of not making the 2017 World Championship team. Then, this past summer, the wacky, ridiculous, DQ on the relay. And then now, the coach that you've been swimming under for all these years has left you, for not your reasons, but, things that happened to him. So even just those three things in the last 2 years, and you've handled them fabulously. So when you come up against something hard, and I'm not talking about just a painful dentist appointment, I'm talking about having the coach that you've swum with for, all these 10 years gone, or, the DQ, or not. What is your immediate inner dialogue and mindset, and how do you visualize that happy moment down the road?
Yeah. So I think that I was raised in an environment where we were taught to kind of just press on and kind of push through pain. And what I mean by that is, so I want to make this as positive as possible. So I grew up swimming for a club team in Las Vegas called the Sandpipers of Nevada. And they're very much famous for being a program that grinds hard. They go volume, they go yards. I mean, they've got probably 10 or 12 high school kids on the U.S. national team, doing open water swimming. And I'll never forget coming into practice one afternoon, and my club coach, Ron Aiken, was writing just this pyramid IM set on the whiteboard, and it was an 8,000 IM. Mm-hmm. And I remember in my brain, I was like, how am I going to do this? And I remember getting in, doing warm up, and then we were starting this 8,000 IM, and about 400 yards into this pyramid IM, my whole leg like completely cramped up. Like I got this really bad Charlie horse. And I was like sitting on the lane line, and I was like, Ron, I was screaming at Ron. I was like, Ron, I can't do this. Like I can't swim. And he just turned around, he looked at me, he said, you better find a way and keep swimming. And in that moment, I was just like totally distraught. And in my head, I was like, I can't do this. And then when he said, find a way, and there was no other options but keep swimming, I put my head down and I started swimming slowly, and I kind of shook out my leg, and within a couple, maybe 200 yards, my leg had kind of loosened up and it was fine. It was temporary, but I realized looking back at that moment that, had he not forced me to keep going and kind of troop on, I probably would have given up and not even done that really long 8,000 IM set. Right. And so I grew up in an environment where, the only option was to kind of forge on. And so as I've matured and gotten older and gone through some of these things, like you said, I've been disqualified at a number of high level meets, and that takes a big mental toll on me. I mean, it's painful. It's hard. Like I'm disappointed in myself. I feel like I've let my teammates down. I feel like I let down my fans. And that is something that, I kind of have to in the moment, when those things happen, I kind of have to press on. And then after the fact, then go through with thinking about, okay, how do I get better? How do I prevent this again? How do I move forward? Last summer, I tore my MCL on my left knee, and I had a bunch of micro tears in my knee, and I was training on it for a long period of time, and I didn't realize how bad it was until I got it checked out. And I mean, it basically was a 6-month recovery process. And there were days when I went into the pool and I didn't want to be there, or I was disappointed, or I was upset because I felt like I wasn't making progress. And basically what I'm trying to say is I was struggling on a regular basis. And what I realized when I was struggling and not making any progress was the reason it was so hard for me was because I was lacking joy and I was lacking that sense of fun. And being, dealing with this major injury made me realize, okay, why do I really love swimming? Obviously, like, I have goals. I want to get faster. I want to make teams. But at the end of the day, the reason I fell in love with swimming was because I had fun and because I enjoyed the team camaraderie of pressing through a really hard set that you might have not thought you could have gotten through prior to. Right. And so I started having fun again, and that helped me kind of get through it. And so kind of the silver lining and the underlying point is that I think, number one, I was raised in an environment where, you have to forge on. But number two, the way to do that is sometimes just putting a smile on your face. Sometimes just telling yourself it's going to be okay and laughing about it, helps you kind of forge on and get through those tough sets or get through those tough times. I hope I'm making sense. I feel like I'm rambling and I'm losing people right now. I have no idea if that was any good. Maybe I just lost everybody.
Wait. Let me just add a follow-up question to that. So what you're saying is it was hard. You'd lost joy and you recaptured that joy by actually just making yourself put a smile on your face and telling yourself you were going to be happy?
Yeah. And part of that was, this was around the time when I started making more videos and taking my YouTube channel even more seriously. And a big part of the videos was I wanted to show people how fun it can be. And in trying to do that, just basically showing people, by making these videos, how fun it is at the pool, how fun it is, goofing off with my friends, with Blake and Lily. I was having fun doing that. And that's when I realized, okay, this is what it's all about, right? I mean, at the end of the day, we all want to win medals, but you also have to enjoy the process because, the process is everything.
Yeah. And Cody, as a swimmer, because I know the swimmers listening, I totally understood what you were saying and didn't think it was, people were being lost. But so when, like, I'm a distance swimmer, 4 IM, distance free. And, I've done sets. I come out of the NCAP. It's now NCAP, where Katie and them swam for John Flanagan, who is Andrew Seliscar's coach. But we would do 10 1000s. And I remember, I would be crying in that. And like at number 5, I'm like, oh, I can't make 5 more. And, they were getting faster intervals and you had to perform better. And so so what I'm hearing you say, and I just want to clarify that, when you would get in the middle of an 8,000 IM set and, you're halfway through it, there's just a black, dark place there, isn't there? That you're just like, I don't know that I can get through this. And then you do. And is that what you're, when you have come upon something, you're like, well, I got through that and I can get through this.
Yeah. I think it becomes a habit, right? It's looking at things as a glass half full kind of perspective, right? Like when I find that when I'm training the hardest, when I'm training the most, and when you have those battles on a regular basis, it makes everything else a little bit easier, right? Because you've become accustomed to that. And because, I think as high level athletes, we develop this mindset where failure is not an option. And sometimes with those struggles in life, it becomes, okay, sitting here and sulking and being disappointed is not an option. We develop these techniques and these tools to move forward. And by realizing that you can and that you have to, it just kind of becomes instinct, I think. And I think that those things are developed in the pool when you're in that dark place and you're unsure, and then you come out on the other side of it and you're like, oh man. And that's like a satisfying feeling, right? Like when I've been there, I've done that 10 1000 set. And when you finish that 10th 1000, you're just like, oh, I can't believe I did that. And it feels good. And you get a bit of a rush. And then, when something else goes wrong, it's like, suddenly it just becomes a little bit easier. And I really love that about our sport because, at the end of the day, our sport is very much an individual sport, but at the same time, it's that team camaraderie sometimes of looking around, when you're doing 3,100 short interval and you've got 3 seconds on the wall and you look to your left and your teammate gives you just a fist pump and then you guys leave the wall together. Sometimes that's all the motivation you need. Right. And that's just, man, I love our sport so much.
Yes. Yes. And Maria, you can relate to that. I mean,
absolutely.
When you're riding your bike across the country and getting no sleep for 11 days, you would just go mailbox to mailbox, right?
Yeah, we talked about breaking it down, like you said, by sets. But one of the things I heard you say once, and I love this quote. I'm going to put it on my wall. The best feeling is after the pain. Just because it's so true. Once you do, it's great. And I think in listening to your videos and and hearing your story, I sense, and maybe this is wrong, or maybe you've even said it, that you struggle with depression, and that a lot of this stuff that you do keeps you out of the hole.
That's definitely true. I've been up and down with depression, not like serious clinical, like, suicidal depression, but I mean, yeah, I've definitely been down in the dumps quite a bit. And swimming has definitely been my outlet or my safe place. Growing up, whatever it was that I was dealing with, swimming was always a place where, number one, I had friends and I felt like I was accepted. And number two, it was something that I felt like I always had total control over. So, my results in the pool or whatever I was getting out of every single practice was pretty much completely determined by me. It's like, how hard do I want to push? What do I want to get out of this? And so I've definitely struggled with a bit of depression. I've definitely struggled with, dealing with, not like, as I said earlier, not liking the way that I looked in the mirror. And it's like, okay, how do I climb out of this? And ultimately, forcing myself to struggle in the pool kind of helped me grow and helped me find my legs to climb out. Absolutely.
There is a lot of talk around athletes, and especially athletes that are in high pressure situations. Michael Phelps, Allison Schmidt, talking about depression and anxiety and how that, has kind of plagued them on and off throughout their careers. I think when one has really high goals, you get really high and you can fall really low. Have you had anxiety with your depression ever?
I've definitely had moments. I don't see it so much as I guess you could call it anxiety. I've definitely had moments in my life where take, the few months following my my knee procedure in like October of 2018, where I was, rehabbing my knee and I was only able to swim maybe 20% of what I would consider to be good training. And in those moments and during that period of time, I really struggled with my sense of self, because for the longest time, I always viewed and perceived myself as this swimmer who is always pushing my own limits, is always training as hard as possibly, as hard as I possibly can all the time. And once that was gone, right, when that was no longer an option for me, when swimming, when my results were no longer completely determined by what I was able to do in the pool, when I was, incapable of doing that, I struggled with my sense of self. And I was like, okay, like, who am I if I'm not this really good swimmer? And I think that that's something that a lot of Olympic swimmers and a lot of high level athletes really struggle with. I've heard Michael talk about, him dealing with his own identity, post the Olympics, coming back, how do you come back from that? I've talked with other Olympic swimmers like Tyler Clary, a good friend of mine, said, after he won his Olympic gold medal, his entire life, he was living this pursuit of achieving this dream, and everything he did was devoted to achieving that dream. Every decision he made leading into that Olympics was for one goal. And once he achieved that, he didn't know what to do with himself. And he fell into a bit of depression and really struggled. And I think that that's a common thing. And so, I mean, I'm not sitting here as like some guru that has the answer to prevent that or solve that. Like, I don't know. But speaking from my own experience, the way that I've helped combat that and kind of eliminate that a little bit in my own life is just having balance, right? Like, I can still see myself as wanting to be the best breaststroker I can possibly be, but I have to have other things outside of the pool that are, equally as important, so that, one day when my swimming career is over, I don't just shut down, because, once swimming ends, there's got to be something else. I think athletes need balance, but I mean, that's just my opinion.
And that is a perfect, beautiful segue into
yes
what you're doing, because that's really like, I just wanted to touch on the depression and anxiety, because it's like an epidemic in our society. There are billions and billions of people suffer. And I just thought, just to hear that Cody Miller does suffer now and then, that's with a little bit of that's I think that's really helpful. So, but you are balancing your life where that's why we don't think of you as just a pro swimmer. We think of you as this businessman who is.
I think of you as a personality. I'm not even
Yeah.
a swimmer, and I am totally engaged by your videos. They're warm, they're interesting to me, and as I said, I'm not a swimmer, and yet I could watch every single one, the ones about swimming and the ones about 10 things you didn't know about Cody Miller. They're very, very engaging. If anybody out there who's listening hasn't, you definitely need to go to Cody's channel and watch them. So I see, is that part of who you are outside of being a swimmer?
Well, first of all, that's probably the best compliment you could give me. I really, really appreciate that. I'm always fascinated when I hear from people who watch my videos that aren't regular swimmers.
Yeah.
I think that hopefully means I'm doing something right.
Yes,
because I certainly try to structure it in a way that, okay, the swim workout I'm doing makes sense. People can kind of grasp kind of what's going on, but ultimately, I'm trying to have fun while, okay. So the way I describe it is like this. When I was a little kid, I was obsessed with obviously Olympic swimmers like Brendan Hansen and Aaron Pearsall and, that generation of swimmers. And if you were to ask 13-year-old Cody what the greatest thing in the world would be, it would be if there was like a TV show where every single week Olympic champion Brendan Hansen took me to his practice and walked me through his workouts, and I got to experience it with him. That would have been the greatest thing in the world. And I think about that. And I think about that when I'm making these videos. I'm like, okay, what would I like to see if I was 13 again, idolizing these Olympic swimmers? Because remember, I was just like those kids not that long ago. And so that's kind of what I shoot for. That's absolutely what I shoot for, is making sure that it's fun and engaging and, not too swim heavy. I want people who aren't, the highest levels of swimmers to be able to experience and enjoy my videos and the content that I put out there. So hopefully people are enjoying it.
Obviously I'm a swimmer and I love it, but even ones that aren't heavy swimming, like I think whenever you retire from swimming, and like I said, I think people should swim until they're 100, but if, I could even see you and Allie doing like a cooking day and, this is our exercise day and this is our relationship day. I mean, you guys are both so just so fun to watch. And so I really we do see this as something that, Cody Miller's going to be, you're going to have this great career because YouTube is it. So what kind of are your hopes for the YouTube channel futuristically?
Yeah, I mean, my YouTube channel has really grown into something that I never really anticipated. It's kind of weird, and in the best way. It's really awesome because it was just a hobby that has kind of turned into this career, into this vessel that is, providing, that's helping put food on my plate, like literally, so I have some pretty ambitious goals for my YouTube channel. I number one, obviously want to continue to grow it. I have a big passion of mine is I want to leave the sport better than when I joined it. And I would like to think that hopefully, the things that I'm doing, the content that I'm creating is helping, not just inspire swimmers, but it's helping them find ways to enjoy it and have fun and really recognize that, one of the beautiful things about our sport is that struggle and that pursuit and showing people that. But back to your question, it's, I would hope that my channel will continue to grow and gain enough viewership that I can continue making videos, because as long as the audience is there and the audience is supporting me, I can continue creating content for that audience. And I try to be as transparent with my audience as possible. Just within the last year, I've started taking on dozens of new sponsors, which is great because for me, it's allowing me to justify the amount of time that I'm putting into doing this far more so than I would just a regular hobby. And, long term, I want to turn it into, I have, I want to be as vague as possible because I have ideas for different shows and different, channels and different things in the world of swimming that I want to do. But I guess I'm not making any sense right now. I want to grow it and I want people to enjoy it. But I think the most important thing is that people are enjoying the content that I'm creating and that it's engaging and that it's fun. I know I keep saying that, but that is really the most important thing to me because, I watch a lot of YouTube and I'm only going to watch it if I'm enjoying it, if I like it, if I feel like I'm getting something. And there are a number of things that I want to do with my YouTube channel, especially when, my swimming career, when I decide to kind of close the book on, okay, I'm no longer trying to be this high level elite swimmer. Now I'm just going to be a regular swimmer And it's going to open up these doors for me to spend more time into making other kinds of hopefully really fun, cool videos.
Wow, that does sound really promising. So, but right now you are a high-level elite international swimming league pro swimmer. So let's talk about pro swimming. And I, we interviewed Rowdy Gaines, of course, everybody knows Rowdy. And, Rowdy has been a longtime friend of mine. And I'm like, Rowdy, this is just so exciting. It's going to open up needs for everything from pro assistant coaches to pro head coaches to professional broadcasters to, so it's just like, there's so much that we need to kind of build the infrastructure around pro swimming. I even on our podcast. So this is just a 2-second view into what I see like swimmers need to start doing, and you're already doing it. That's why we call you Pioneer Cutting Edge. So when we interview swimmers for this podcast, and they're pro swimmers, they're high level swimmers. I mean, we're talking people with resumes and gold medals and NCAA titles out the yin yang, and I'll look at their social media and they'll be nothing. Like they don't have any followers on. So I feel like someone needs to start guiding elite swimmers that want to get sponsorships to say, okay, you need to start building your Instagram page and your YouTube channel. And you are so far ahead of the curve. You and Michael Andrew. That's it. That's something that I feel like there even needs to be a class taught in, college that says, my alma mater is NC State. And when some of those swimmers graduate, I'm still good friends with them. And, and I'll tell them, hey, you need to get your social media up. So you've done that. So let's talk about maybe how you knew to do that or what you see. Let's start with that question. What you see are some of the real needs around pro swimming to make it blossom into this ability for you guys to make some big coin.
Yeah, I love that. We could do an entire podcast just on this topic alone. I did a podcast yesterday talking about the ISL a little bit, and I will say I think that there's two things. I think number one, the hope is that the ISL is as successful as we want it to be, thereby creating all of these opportunities and basically creating viewership. Hopefully the audience around the world and in the United States embraces this new league and this new format, and hopefully advertisers, will flock and networks will pay for this kind of content, right? So that there's more eyes on us, because the biggest thing is right now swimmers are really only on TV once a year, and that's pretty much world championships or during the Olympic year at the Olympics. So maybe once, maybe 2 or 3 times a year, and really only one time during the year is it really popular. I know that they show U.S. nationals on NBC sometimes or on Universal Sports, but the ratings aren't exactly there. But hopefully this new league can change that to where swimmers are on TV 30, 40, 50 different times a year. So ultimately, with there being more eyes on us, there being more chances for people to really know swimmers and get to know swimmers. So on one hand, we want the league to grow. And then on the other hand, for professional swimmers, I mean, I've kind of taken it upon myself to try and grow my own social media in the hopes of being able to continue my own swimming career. And what I mean by that is I wanted to find a way to be able to keep swimming, even if it wasn't at the highest level, but be able to keep swimming and support myself. And right now, the only way to support yourself as a professional swimmer is if you're top 16 in the world and you're good enough and you make athlete partnership agreement and you can make some decent money to support yourself, but it's not really the quote unquote professional career that real professional athletes have. And that's what we're striving for. And so I really just kind of went out there and attacked it hard. And the way that I learned that was just studying other YouTubers. I told you guys before we started recording this podcast that before I started making YouTube videos, I just stumbled down this rabbit hole of vloggers who were kind of recording their life and putting it out there for people to consume. And I just learned, okay, social media, just like anything else, is all about consistency, right? So you have to show up to work to get paid. You have to show up for social media for it to matter. which means you need to post regularly, and you need to post things that, your audience or your followers might find entertaining. And you don't necessarily have to be the most extroverted person in the world to do it. I mean, any swimmer can take a photo of themselves with a GoPro at practice once or twice a week and throw it up on Facebook or Instagram. It's not that hard, but you have to do it regularly. So that's my one piece of advice, is just making sure that it's regular. For me, I make sure that I post a video on my YouTube channel every single week. I will not miss a Wednesday upload. There will be a video every Wednesday, and sometimes more than once a week. But that's the biggest thing is, people knowing that it's going to be there. But really, to get back to your question, sorry, I feel like I'm kind of teetling off here.
No,
I love that.
That's so great.
I love that.
Keep going.
I'm sorry. So yeah, so really, to get back to your question, number one, the league needs to be successful, and there needs to be viewership and eyes on the league so that it happens organically. And then number two, I think athletes really do need help with this. I think swimmers need help with growing their quote unquote brand and growing their platform. And a lot of people just don't understand how to do that. I took it upon myself to just learn how to do it, because nowadays we live in a wonderful time. We live in the greatest time in the world. If you want to learn how to do anything, you can YouTube it. You know what I mean? You can Google search just about anything and you can teach yourself how to do something. And that's kind of what I did. It's like, okay, how do I grow a following? How do I create an audience? How do I cultivate, something special? And you look for trends and you look for things. And, at the end of the day, the thing that I learned is it's just that consistency. And I think that I know that there are classes on social media that you can take. I know that that's a big thing now, but I definitely think that that's something that USA Swimming should implement for the U.S. national team. I think anybody could benefit from that, even just like a 2-hour, or just like a 1-hour seminar on, how to grow your brand just a little bit. Dude, I'm willing to talk to anybody about that. But look, by no means am I like the world leading expert. I'm a swimmer who's grown a YouTube channel and is doing okay. It's not like I have millions of followers, but I want to help people.
Well, you are the world leading swimmer with a YouTube channel.
I would just add to that one thing that you do well, that I think anybody who wants to grow their brand needs to do, is you're very authentic. You try to be honest, and people can tell from a mile off if somebody is lying. And your videos are, an assortment of things, but there's always a sense that you're getting the real Cody. And one of the things about being out there and selling and creating a brand is you have to sort of expose yourself. And I think a lot of people are uncomfortable with that. What would you say to that?
Yeah, I mean, what I would say to that is, look, and people don't even believe me when I tell them this, but I am an introvert. I'm an introverted person. My wife is the extrovert in this marriage, but I've developed the ability to just kind of turn it on when there's a camera on me. I kind of just amp up my energy a little bit. And that's very me. That's very authentic. It's just, I'm playing to the camera a bit, and some people aren't comfortable with doing that, and that's okay. Look, not everyone has to start a YouTube channel where you're talking about your life. But as far as just growing your social media, doing regular posts here and there, look, anybody can take like I just said, anybody can take a GoPro and take a photo of themselves underwater, or take a photo of a set that they're doing and post something somewhat regularly. It's not that hard. I mean, anything is better than nothing. And it just starts with baby steps. That's what I would say to those people. And you do not have to be the most extroverted person in the world to kind of put yourself out there on social media. And there's always going to be some people who are just totally uncomfortable with that and don't want to do that. And that's fine. But you can't complain about how you're a professional athlete not getting any sponsorships if you're not willing to put in the work that it takes to get there. That's my only piece of advice.
Cody, and that's just one of the things we love doing in this podcast, just like you love doing your videos, is having a lesson out of what we're talking about. And I absolutely love that lesson of consistency, that, that's like you said, you show up for work and in life. And do you know the term pod fade? It's a term that, like, there's some statistic on all the podcasts that, Libsyn and that 76% of podcasts never make it past number 7. And so when Maria and I started this, we're like, we got to be consistent every week, no matter what. That is just like life, that you show up, you've got to be consistent. So I really hope that people are hearing that, not just with if they want to start a YouTube channel, but if they want to, win an Olympic gold, if they want to get the promotion at work, if they want to lose the weight, they've got to go out consistently and run or walk or whatever. So I love that. And obviously that for you is a routine or a ritual. And I'd love to hear some of the things that you do routinely or even rituals that you have that you think have helped you succeed.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that consistency in just about anything is the number one most important thing on the track to success. For me, being consistent in all the little areas that matter the most, but are tiny little things that ultimately accumulate into being a big thing. And what I mean by that is the little details. So like going to bed on time. You can ask my wife, she'll vouch for me. We do not go to bed past 9 p.m. ever. Not even on weekends. Like this past weekend was like Halloween weekend. There were all these Halloween parties going around. And no, I was in bed at 8:30 on Saturday night. So I don't compromise on that. That's a big thing, getting enough sleep, making sure that I have a bottle of water with me everywhere that I go, consistently drinking water so that I'm always hydrated because my body is always getting broken down. I'm always trying to repair it. Look, I love me some good ice cream, but I avoid ice cream. I try to minimize the amount of ice cream that I eat. Maybe once a week will I treat myself. And it's just little things like that where, oftentimes you don't think much about it. It's like, oh, my show's on. I'll just give myself another 30 minutes. I don't have to wake up until 7 tomorrow anyway. Or, oh, it's just one bowl of ice cream. It's not that big of a deal. I did well this Wednesday. It'll be okay. But those little things that I don't compromise on ultimately, I think do two things. Number one, I think that they build up to allowing me to train at a higher level, from a swimming perspective. And then number two, it gives me that mental edge, leading into the end of the season. I'm able to remember all those little sacrifices and all those little things that I've done well, that I can honestly look in the mirror and say, I've prepared myself to the best of my ability. And there's no what ifs, there's no second guessing. Because all the work has been put in and then some. I didn't just work hard when I was in the pool. I took that extra 15 minutes to stretch out after practice before I laid on the couch like a lazy slump, like I like to do. So I think it's those little things. I mean, it certainly hasn't steered me wrong with swimming. So I would imagine that it probably applies to other things as well.
Are you that disciplined about, I know you produce you post a new video every Wednesday. Are you that disciplined about like the time or day or that you do those?
Oh, yeah. So for me right now, my number one focus is training for Olympic trials. So I won't edit footage after 8 p.m. because if I'm staring at a screen, within an hour of when I go to bed, it messes with my ability to fall asleep, or I'm thinking about the edit in my brain. So I limit myself on, number one, how much time I'll spend editing, and number two, when I will edit. So like during the day in between practices is good. And then, it's time management. It's like I won't allow editing the footage or doing audio corrections or going into film a sponsored video or whatever. I won't allow all those things are secondary to training right now. But in another year or two, there will come a time when that switches, when I'm still in the swimming world, I'm still swimming regularly, but the number one focus will be on producing those videos. And that's okay. And that's something that, I'm looking forward to. But right now, yes, I definitely carry over that discipline into making my videos.
That's great. It's really
fabulous. Well,
really,
I feel like, Maria, we have gotten a great message for our listeners out of this. So I don't want to go any longer because we have the fun questions. We do always ask the last question as, Cody, is there anything that we have not covered that you would like to share with our listeners?
Wow, you really put me on the spot here. Oh my goodness. I don't know. If your viewers don't know who I am, don't be so shocked when you see that I'm like the world's biggest Harry Potter fan. My wife and I took Harry Potter engagement photos in our robes and our wands, and I'm literally recording this podcast in a room that is decorated with Harry Potter toys. So that's the first thing that came to my mind. I don't know if that's what you're looking for, but
I think that's great.
That's a great one. That's as authentic as it gets, and that's what that's what people love. All right, now we call it the fun round. We call it the sprinter round, and you definitely can sprint and swim You've got them both. You got the 200 covered and the 50 and 100. So so I'm going to start, and it's just an either or. They're just fun. We've tweaked a few of these for you, but nothing major.
Take your mark.
Okay, cat or dog?
Dog.
Mission Impossible or Born Identity?
Oh, that's a hard one. Wow. I'm going to give the slight edge to Mission Impossible because the last few movies have been so good. But I love the original 3 Bourne movies so much. I'm sorry, this is supposed to be fast. I'm sorry. Okay,
oh, no, take your time. Milk chocolate or dark chocolate?
Milk chocolate.
Kickboard or no kickboard?
Definitely kickboard. I love kicking with a kickboard.
Yeah, who doesn't? So many people say no kickboard. I'm like, come on. Anyway, mountains or beach?
Ooh, I'm gonna go mountains. I love the beach, but I really don't like sand. I hate sand.
That's so great.
It's tough. It's tough.
I love it. Football or baseball?
Football.
iPhone or Android?
iPhone for sure. I literally just got the new iPhone just yesterday because I needed it for the camera for my videos. I'm really psyched
cool. Coffee or tea?
Tea.
Morning person or night owl? I think you've already answered that one.
Yeah, I'm a morning person. I have this argument with my wife all the time because my wife is a savage. She wakes up and she is ready to go. And I mean, she's ready to have a conversation. She's smiling. She wakes up and she is the same person at noon as she is at 5:30 in the morning. And it's insane. I am a morning person, but it takes me a little time to boot up. Like, I don't want to have a conversation with you at 5 a.m. when my alarm goes off. Like, I'm in a bad mood sometimes when I get up, but I still prefer getting up because I get a sense of satisfaction out of getting up when I don't want to. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a messed up person. I don't know.
Okay. And the last one for all of us women out here, boxers or briefs?
Sorry, Kelly, go ahead.
Did you hear it, Cody?
I laughed over it.
I did not hear it. She was laughing so hard.
Okay,
I'm trying.
great. All right. I said for all us women out here, boxers or briefs?
Well, I like both. I wear briefs regularly, but I sleep in boxers. So I guess I would lean towards briefs. Yeah. Okay. That's such a funny one to end on. I love that.
I know, but no, there are a few more. Maria.
Okay, yeah, we're for you, we have a list of movies we've come up with, and we want you to give the movie a grade A through F, or just say any single word that comes to mind when you hear the name of the movie. Okay, Jerry Maguire.
Great movie. B+.
The Matrix.
Oh, one of the greatest. I have a poster of The Matrix in my garage. One of the greatest science fiction films. One of the greatest films ever made. That movie's an A+.
I agree. That is my favorite movie of all time, Cody. The Matrix. A+. I'm sorry.
It's so good. I mean, we're gonna get off topic here. I'm gonna stop.
Yeah, well, okay. I do want to say though, Maria's A+ was number 1.
Your B- was my A+. That's my Bible. Everything in Jerry Maguire I live by. Anyway, okay. Blade Runner.
The original Blade Runner?
Yes.
I'm one of those oddballs that I don't love the original Blade Runner. I mean, it's like a solid B. It's a good movie, but I don't know. I wasn't it came before my time. So like clearly, I'm probably not the right one, but I will say Blade Runner 2049 was my favorite movie of the year when that movie came out. That movie was insanely good.
Okay. Planet of the Apes, the 2019 version.
I really liked those movies far more than I thought I would. I remember seeing Rise of the Planet of the Apes, the reboot, and I was like, wow, this is actually really awesome. And Dawn of the Planet of the Apes was even better. Man, Andy Serkis, I love that guy. Those are great movies. They're really fun movies.
Okay, a 40-Year-Old Virgin.
Oh, one of the greatest comedies of all time. One of the first movies I remember distinctly crying. I was laughing so hard, like just tears of just joy. It's so funny. It's so funny. And that movie definitely came out when I was too young to watch. Like I was definitely should not have been watching it when I was watching it, which made it even better. Yeah.
Okay. Wonder Woman.
The new Wonder Woman.
The newest.
I thought Wonder Woman was awesome. And I'm super excited for Wonder Woman 84 or 1984. I think it's going to be great, but I thought that movie was just kick ass.
All right. Blades of Glory.
I quote that movie pretty regularly with my friends. That's an A+. I love Will Ferrell. That's a fun movie.
Yeah, A+. A+.
Everything Will Ferrell does is great. And last, Harry Potter.
Oh, you hit me right in my heart. Just my favorite. My favorite Harry Potter movie is probably The Prisoner of Azkaban, or I consider the final two movies to be one giant movie, The Deathly Hallows, because I mean they just split one book and made two movies, but that's just I've been thinking about rewatching that actually the last couple of days. Strangely, I love it. I remember going to the theater every year for all of the movies. You know, the very first showing. I remember my mom taking me to see the very first Harry Potter movie at the Suncoast Resort and Casino in Las Vegas when I was 10 years old, right around Christmas time. I was so excited. Yeah, I love it.
Had you already read all the Harry Potter books before you saw the movies?
So no, my mom took me to the movie and I loved it so much that we went and bought the first two books because those were the only two that were out then. And then I read those two books, and then from then on I was hooked. But the movie was my first experience. I saw the movie and then I got in. And then, you know, I kind of grew up with those books. You know, I waited in line at Borders bookstore to get them when they came out.
That's cool.
Awesome.
There was one question. What word, this is not having to do with movies, but what word comes to mind most when you dive in the water?
Honestly, it depends on the day. Totally depends on the day. What word? That is such an interesting, I feel like this is something people should answer quickly, and I'm like blowing it right now. Probably joy, honestly. Because I feel like the thing that I experience when I dive in is joy, even when I don't want to do it. Even when I don't want to jump in the pool. Like this morning, I got in the pool at 6 a.m. and I was standing there and I didn't want to get in. And I didn't even have a GoPro. I wasn't vlogging. But the second I dove in, it's like winning those little battles. You know, like you have little battles throughout the day. And if you know, for me, at least if I win them, I feel better about it. And I feel like I get to do that every day when I dive in the pool. I get to win that little battle. So it's probably joy.
Oh, that's a fantastic answer. An awesome place to end. Cody, it has been such a pleasure, and we so appreciate your time and all you're doing for the swimming world and the professional swimming. And, you know, we really wish you all the best.
And for the kids out there who are watching your YouTube, you know, the ones you're trying to encourage, you're doing it. It's fabulous.
Yes. And one thing we do
so
with
much.
champions,
I appreciate that.
Yeah, we want you to have the mojo. So now that you've been on our show, we are totally cheering for you. And
absolutely.
Yes, envisioning great things for you and you reaching all your goals and dreams. We really want that for you.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. This was awesome. This was one of the most fun podcasts I've done in a while. So thank you very much.
Super fun
so much.
for us
Have a
too.
great
Thank
day.
you so much, Cody.
Wow, Maria. There is a reason that Cody Miller is such a star and has so many people following him. What do you think?
Yeah, he's really, really fun to talk to, incredibly engaging, and he has such a great story.
Yes, and I love his energy and how positive and giggly and he just you can just tell he's just beaming this great energy throughout the interview, and it was awesome. So we are each going to do our 2 takeaways, but we both agreed on we had to discuss this together at the top of the takeaways. And it just, you know, it's kind of a little lesson in the fact that Cody grew up with the condition of Pectus Excavatum, if I'm saying that correctly, where his chest was, you know, is caved in a little bit from that. And he felt self-conscious about it. And what's funny is I never noticed it. I never noticed it. And so what were you saying, Maria, how this is such a point for us to all take away?
Yeah. He considered that one of the big obstacles he had to overcome, along, of course, with the difficulties around his father's addiction and death. But what I thought was interesting is he used this iceberg analogy. I think you were saying, you know, here he is, the golden boy, and yet he said, really, you see something on top that's, you know, that I've, you know, kind of created, but underneath that is like a big iceberg. This, you know, all of my difficulties and, you know, all of my successes, you know, have built what I am today. And one of the challenges and difficulties was his Pectus Excavatum and his self-consciousness about that. So I love the concept that even our insecurities can be something that we can overcome and can build us and send us, towards success.
Yes. Yeah. I just love that the message that when we think, everybody's staring at something or we've got this problem, most people they're not even worried about it, or they're not even thinking about it. So
it's so true. It's so true.
Yeah, it's so true. Let's start with our first two takeaways. Let's do one each. And what was your first big takeaway that you felt we want our listeners to kind of really grab? Because there was so much. We really had trouble honing it down to 4.
Yeah, I loved, I have joy written all over my notes because I liked his attitude around joy. So one of the things that really stuck with me is he said, when we were doing the fast round, he said, you said the word that you think of when you first dive into the water. And he said, joy. And then he went on to explain that it wasn't joy because, it feels so good to dive in the water and swim, but it's actually very difficult to get up early in the morning and dive into cold water and swim. But the joy came because he'd won that little battle. And so he used that attitude and idea throughout the interview. He shared with us about how he would have to work on, creating joy and choosing joy in his life. He when he was struggling with his knee injury and not being able to work out as hard as he wanted to, he found himself sort of down, and he started creating the YouTube videos, and he realized, wait, this is something good I can bring out there, and it is fun. And he started to realize, this is great. So he was choosing joy, and part of that, I think, is his desire to serve others. And I think he's very unselfish in that. He said that he wanted to leave the swimming world better than he found it. He wanted to make his chosen sport there better, and his desire to help kids. He's creating these videos because he wished that he had them when he was 13. So I love his deliberateness about choosing fun, happiness, and joy even when things are difficult.
Absolutely. Yes, that is really one of the great attributes that Cody has, for sure. And I'm going to tie that one into one of the things that he does so well is his balance. So not only, he's an Olympic champion, he is definitely focused on the Olympic trials. That he said if he has to choose between, editing, if it's 8:00 at night, he's not going to edit videos. He's going to get ready to go to bed 1 hour before his definite bedtime of 9:00, because swimming right now is his priority. Maybe in the future that will change, but that he really does a beautiful job on working on these videos, on his YouTube channels, on his followers, because it gives him balance. He's not just a swimmer. And I loved where you said, well, Cody, I'm not a swimmer and I really enjoy your videos. And he said that was a really high compliment that you paid him, Maria, which was that you don't see him as a swimmer. You see him as this,
he's a personality.
A personality. So he loved that. And that's the balance. And I think that's something that when we all put all our eggs in one basket, sometimes, you can lose the balance of those scales when everything's on one side. So I think he does that balance piece really well. And that's kind of the theme of the show, is that he's a cutting edge professional swimmer. So yes, definitely a very, very cool part of the takeaway is that we need to have balance in our life.
Yeah, it's funny because that's sort of counter to the focus that you need to succeed. So somehow you have to balance the real need. And he is focused. And I liked how he put it, because he said, I'm focused on swimming right now, but I can see a time in the future where I will want to do something else. So I think that, that's really key, that he knows that he's going to have a life that's beyond professional or super elite level swimming. So I agree with that. That's a great takeaway, Kelly.
Great. So what was your second one?
Okay. So the other thing that I loved was this concept that he mentioned. I think he even called it compartmentalism for success. So he has had to compete with some really difficult things going on in his personal life. And he's able to do that because he can compartmentalize them. And I think that's a really good and sort of a disciplined skill to have, because we can't just wallow in misery. If things are going badly in one area of our lives, we still have to get up and do whatever it is we're supposed to be doing. In his case, swimming. So he says, one of his quotes is, "Sitting and sulking is not an option." And this is a guy who has had lots of opportunity to sit and sulk, and clearly he has not chosen that. So I like the idea of, okay, here's a person, a champion, who's in part come to this because he's been able to say, okay, bad things are happening in one area of my life, but I'm going to just focus on something that I have control over, which is swimming or whatever it is. Is in the case of when his knee was injured, he was able to work on the YouTube stuff. So he's obviously able to put little walls in his life to succeed. And I thought that's a super duper champion's attribute.
Yes, and that's we love collecting attributes of champions, and that's a rather novel one, which I love that he pointed it out, and that you actually pulled it, out of the interview as one of the traits of champions. So loving the compartmentalizing for success. That's a great one. So my last one, and like we always recommend, we don't try to just redo the whole interview. We really recommend you listen to the whole thing because there's so much. And the last one for me that it just really stood out was consistency. And I'm going to tie consistency into the habits that he had, because I think if you're consistent with your habits, that is what really builds the staircase to the top of the Olympic podium. That he said, the reason he's had such success on YouTube is every single week he puts up a video. He just makes himself do it. He's consistent with that. And, I love that he gave some free advice to swimmers out there. And, swimming as a pro swimmer is now a real career option for a lot of swimmers. Right. And if they want to become, if they want to get more sponsorship and they want to get out and make more money, then they do have to have some social media presence, some presence out there on the internet, and consistently posting or making videos or, whatever to get out in front of the customers. And
yeah, he said it doesn't take long. You just, take a little picture of yourself and just post regularly. Yes. I love that advice. That, as you said, that's part of the consistency. But he had other things, right?
He had, I love the small little things that all add up to success, which was he avoids ice cream, which he consistently avoids. He says it hurts, but he goes to bed, every night at 9:00, no matter what. He said, even though, it was Halloween weekend, he still was in bed at 9:00. So I love that. And he said he makes a habit too of another habit of seeing the glass as half full. He makes that choice to see the glass half full instead of half empty. And that's a habit. So I love that he knows that consistently doing things over time will lead to his success. So that was my, one of two, but I had a whole page full of notes like you. And, it was such a pleasure and an honor to really get a little deeper into Cody's mindset. And I think it's truly the mindset of a champion.
Well, I remember one of the last things he said is, when it's game time, I remember all those little sacrifices. And when I look in the mirror, I know I did everything I could. And I just, that's such a great thing that we've talked about that before. That's not every champion has told us that, but yeah. If you do all those little things when you're standing at the starting line of whatever it is, you can say, yep, I did all those things. I did everything I could.
Well, Cody's doing them. So we're hopefully going to see some great things out of him this 2020, whether that's as a YouTube or personality or an Olympic swimmer. Either way, he's a winner. So,
yep, he sure is.
Awesome. Well, Maria, another one in the can, as they say. And just love that you're on this journey with me. And thanks for sharing all your takeaways today.
I love you too, Kelly. This has been so fun. And Cody Miller was an especially terrific one.
Yep. All right. Love you.
All right. Love you.
Bye-bye.
This week's quote of the week comes from Cody Miller. With those struggles in life, sitting here and sulking and being disappointed is not an option.
We are so grateful that you spent this time with us today, and we hope that you heard something that inspired, motivated, and educated you. Signing off for myself and my champion co-host, Maria Parker, we hope you'll join us again soon, and we know you can be a champion. Thank you for listening, and please see below for a copy of the show notes for any links or important information that we've referenced here.
You've been listening to the Champions Mojo podcast, designed to make you feel inspired, motivated, and educated. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and Google Play. Also visit championsmojo.com to learn more.